The bell tinkles as the glass door swings open. The smell of fresh newspaper mixed with pipe tobacco fills the small corner shop in Sydney. Outside, a blue Ford Falcon is parked with the windows down. Nobody worries. The shopkeeper wears a brown apron and knows customers by their first names. He folds the newspaper with precision whilst counting the copper coins someone has just left on the timber counter stained by time. The radio plays softly a tune nobody really pays attention to, but which is part of the scenery. A woman waits patiently for her turn, holding a cloth bag. The pace is slow. Nobody seems in a hurry. The clock on the wall reads 12:15, but the second hand drags as if it too were feeling the heat. Light enters through the shop front at an angle, illuminating the dust floating aimlessly. There's something comforting about the predictability of that space. Every object has its place. Every gesture has its time. The world outside exists, but doesn't intrude. It's an ordinary Tuesday, and this sort of Tuesday used to be enough. We're in Australia in 1972. The country breathes a different air from what would come later. Cities still have a human scale. Streets are wide, but not hurried. Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane all carry that particular accent of those who live far from everything and don't miss it. Television arrived just over a decade ago, but radio still dominates the mornings. Houses are timber or exposed brick with covered verandas where people actually sit. The telephone is fixed, heavy, shared. Post arrives every day. The economy is stable in a way that requires no explanation. People work, save, buy. There aren't credit cards in every pocket. Money is counted, physical, visible. $1 Australian is a green paper note, or a handful of silver coins that make noise in your trouser pocket. It's not much. It's not little. It's part of the routine. And in this routine, that dollar has a specific weight that hasn't yet been diluted by time. $1 in 1972 isn't a topic of conversation. It's simply what someone carries in their pocket before leaving home in the morning. It requires no planning. It represents no unusual effort. It's the money left over after paying for the bus and still good for something useful. This single dollar has presence. It means choice. You can save it, you can spend it, you can even forget it in the drawer for a few days without it changing your week. But when you decide to use it, it responds. It participates in life in an almost intimate way. It's not a symbolic coin. It's a functional coin, and it works without fanfare. Nobody photographs what they buy with $1. Nobody keeps the receipt as a memento. But everyone knows, without thinking much, what this value represents. It moves between the common and the useful with ease. It's pocket money, corner money, Tuesday money. And in the context of 1972, that's enough. What did you eat with $1? A hot meat pie wrapped in brown paper, bought from the bakery on the way to work. The pastry crisp on the outside, the filling steaming inside. You held it with both hands because it was burning and bit carefully at the edge. The flavor was simple, straightforward. Beef, onion, dark gravy. Nothing fancy, nothing that needed explaining. It was food that sustained, that was part of the day without ceremony. People ate standing up, leaning against the counter, or sitting on the curb whilst watching the street's movement. There was no rush to finish. The pie was a pause, a small interruption that gave you your breath back. And when you finished, you crumpled the paper, tossed it in the corner bin, and carried on. That wasn't a luxury. It was just another midday. What did you drink? A cold bottle of Coca-Cola, thick glass, bought at the milk bar or from the vending machine. You twisted off the metal cap with your hand or used the opener fixed to the wall. The soft drink went down cold, almost hurting your throat, leaving that taste of sugar and gas that seemed more intense than it is today. The empty bottle you returned. Didn't throw away. The system worked like that. You handed it back and got a few cents. Or simply left it there, in the corner, knowing someone would take it. This sort of exchange still made sense. There was a cycle. Things came back. Nothing was disposable by default. And that Coca-Cola, so common, so anonymous, marked the end of the afternoon for someone who'd been working since early. A small reward, but real. What did you read? A complete newspaper. The Sydney Morning Herald or The Age, depending where you lived. Pages and pages of local news, international, sport, classifieds, comics. Paper that stained your fingers with ink. You bought it at the station newsagent or from a vendor who shouted the headlines on the corner. And that newspaper lasted. You read on the train, during lunch break, at home before bed. Passed it to a mate, left on the cafe table for the next person. It wasn't something you consumed in 5 minutes. It had weight, it had body. And for $1, you had access to the entire world filtered through those broadsheet pages you had to fold twice to hold properly. Today, $1 won't buy even the headline of a printed story. But back then, it bought the whole day told in print. What did you listen to? A single record, a vinyl 45 with 2 songs. You walked into a record shop and chose among dozens of colored sleeves stacked in wooden crates. Pop, rock, soul, all mixed together. The attendant would put the record on a turntable for you to hear before buying, if you wanted. But usually you already knew. You'd heard it on the radio, and now you wanted to have it at home. Taking it home meant ownership. You opened the paper sleeve, held the vinyl by the edges so as not to scratch it, placed it on the turntable, lowered the needle carefully. And for 3 minutes, that song was yours alone. You could play it again and again until you'd memorized every breath the singer took. $1 bought repetition, bought intimacy with a tune. And that wasn't nothing. Today in Australia, $1 buys almost nothing of substance. Not a newspaper, not a meal, perhaps a lolly, perhaps half a tiny coffee. The value has stopped working on its own. It needs company, other dollars beside it to mean something, but the detail that really weighs is this. In 1972, an average worker needed about 20 minutes of work to earn $1. 20 minutes. And with those 20 minutes materialized in a coin, he could eat, drink, read, listen to music. Today, 20 minutes of work yields far more in numbers. But what those numbers by no longer has the same density. The quantity increased. The reach diminished. And this isn't judgment. It's just quiet arithmetic. Life carried on. The dollar did too. But the relationship between the two drifted apart in a way nobody planned and everyone felt. What remains is whether you remember a similar moment, when a small coin still sorted out a piece of your day.